Hey, thank you so much, Molly. I'm excited to do this because number one, I met you a little over a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, and we were at the 90s concert, which I thought was super awesome. We have mutual friends. And this amazing woman sits down at our dinner, and I'm like, who is this lady who is, not only beautiful, but also just full of energy? And I am so attracted to that kind of energy. And ever since I've met you, I wanted you on the show, but you just have such a good spirit. And I also love that, when we have people in the Northland, like I want to feature the authors, I want to feature the artists and the people here because I think people always talk to me like, oh, do you have this in Duluth, Minnesota? I'm like, hey, Duluth, Minnesota is a big, small town, but we do a lot. We have a lot of culture. We have a lot of arts. We're still growing it because we went through that phase about for 20 years where the Northland kind of shut down. And we're coming out of that, obviously, but then COVID happened and everything slows back down. But you are just an incredible writer and author. So we're going to talk about that today. But for everyone who doesn't know you yet, going to get to know you, for our listeners or viewers, share just a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from? How the heck did you go from Texas to Duluth?
Sure. Thank you. And it's great to be here and it's fun to see you again. That was a fun night when we met. And thank you for your kind words. So I was born in Duluth and grew up in Superior. And when I graduated, I left town for about 16 years. I went to college in Texas. I traveled for a year with a Catholic ministry team back in the 90s. And then after I graduated from Texas, I lived in Chicago for a year and worked there. And from Chicago, so I kind of like, I'm a wandering spirit. I went all over. So from Chicago, I moved to Aspen, Colorado and lived there for 4 years.
So random. I love that.
Yes, that's all these are little stories in and of themselves, like getting to Texas had to do with thinking about becoming a nun, and living in Chicago I just love the city and wanted to live there. And then Aspen was, the job from Chicago brought me out there and I met the priest and it kind of things fell into place and I got a job. And later on I worked at the bookstore out there, which is the cutest bookstore in the world. And then after Aspen, I left there and moved back home to Duluth for about a year and a half. My whole family's here. I have 4 older siblings and they all have kids. They're all in the area. Big family. I have 17 nieces and nephews, and now they're starting to have kids. So, but then I'm just talking away.
I love it. No. I love it because I'm going to hit on everything you're talking about.
Okay.
Of course, we want to know how you went from, how did we transition from none to over here? And it's awesome. Sure. I wasn't sure if you were from Duluth. I mean, you have just such a huge spirit. And I was like, she is just worldly. So it's very, and now I get why. I got that worldly traveler. You're kind of like my gypsy. I love it. Like a gypsy soul. I think that's you're a gypsy soul. And I have a shirt that even says that. So, okay, so you traveled a lot. You got culturized. I like to say, like when people get out of here, anytime you're in a smaller town or even outside of it, you can get trapped in that small town thinking. And so when I met you, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's just beyond what, the small town is. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not putting that down because I absolutely love where I'm from. I'm from Proctor. So, it's really close. And, it's a small town and it's easy to stay in that little safe zone. And when you get to travel outside it and do what you've done, I think that's really part of the story. And that's the story that defines you. And so I'm excited to hear about it. And huge family. Holy smokes. I bet you I know half your family. I mean, if you start leaving off names, I'd be like, I know them. So I love that. Okay. So Aspen, I've been to Aspen quite a few times. It's not a place I'd want to live, but it's definitely a cool place. It's so unique. And I love that you went to the bookstore. Okay, so you went out there. That was where you were going to possibly go into the sisterhood. What was that transition or what was going on when you were out there?
Well, the sisterhood was when I went to college in Texas. So that was when I was in Aspen. I wasn't really thinking about being a sister then, but the sisterhood stuff is I was like uber Catholic in my early 20s. I traveled with this Catholic ministry team and was totally like on fire. And there was this group at Texas A&M University, which is where I went to school, that was doing a nun run where you visit convents and So I joined them, and I went through a couple years of discernment and staying at convents for a week at a time. I actually had one sister at a convent tell me, I don't think this is for you. Like, I was like rejected from the convent. Like, okay, I don't know what to do with this, but in all things in life, whether you're looking at a religious vocation, what career you're going to do, I think there's a little part of you that kind of always knows deep inside. So even though I was thinking like, oh, maybe I want to be a nun, I always think I knew deep inside I really wanted to get married and have a family. But sometimes it's hard to discern those things, just like our careers, they go different paths. And same thing with me. I started writing when I was 9 years old. I have kept journals. I wrote little poems. And I would think about how could I turn this into a career, but it really wasn't until in the past, I would say 5 years, that I've taken that seriously. That's a whole chunk of my adulthood that I could have spent doing that. And that's just one of those. So anybody listening, if there's something that you kind of feel, maybe this is what it is, it probably is.
It's so cute because it's so true with careers. Because I went to school and I thought I wanted to be a dental hygienist, right? I did that for like 10 years. And even when I first got into it, I was like, I don't know if this was the right career. Like I had graduated and I pushed through the program because when you're doing programs like that, you're like, got to get this done. And you're so focused on the program, you're not thinking about, am I enjoying this? Because I'm not sure. And I had a lot going on. I mean, my husband was traveling the whole time. So as I go into this accelerated program, I got pregnant. We were married. So I'm fully pregnant doing the program. My dad got sick and died. I took my boards a week after my father passed on my stepmother. So we had to do physical boards. She was a trooper, but honestly, we were both so sad and just trying to get through. So it was almost like all this life was happening where I couldn't even focus on what I really wanted. So I get into the career field and I'm going,
what did I do?
I don't think I'm loving this. Like even a little. I really struggled with it and I just battled it. And when you don't love something, everything starts to bother you. Everything starts to bother you. So there's reasons that we do it, but I had to go through all that to find what I wanted. So you had to go through all that to find what you wanted. And I think it's wonderful that you wanted a family. By the way, I was raised Catholic. Absolutely. I love the Catholic Church. I know it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. But it's still so beautiful to me and one of my favorite places, and that it's on my number one place is Rome. So I really want to go to the Vatican City and I want to do the experience. And I think Catholicism is just, the traditions are beautiful. It doesn't mean you have to love all of it, but there's a beauty in that tradition. And so I totally understand the Catholic ways in the Catholic Church and sure how I was raised. But so you get to this point where you're like, okay, someone doesn't think this is gonna work, and you're thinking, so what happened when you're like, when you get that little bug in your ear, and you're like, maybe this isn't for me. Where were you at in your life?
Yeah, so I was in college and eventually, I graduated from college and thought, all right, well, I'm not going to be a sister. And a lot of my girlfriends in college got married right away and that didn't happen. So I was like, what am I going to do now? Well, I've always wanted to live in Chicago. Now's the time. Sure. So I popped up north back, in the area and moved to Chicago, and it's such a great city. But I don't know. I think like what you mentioned earlier about doing dental hygienist and realizing it's not for you, that's kind of been my whole life with my career, is trying different things and seeing what works. And sometimes things work for a year or 2 or 3, and then they're not working anymore. And it's okay. I think our parents, or at least my parents' generation, it was you get one job and you stay in it. Yeah. And it's not like that anymore. And it doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't. And I think it's important to resonate with the people who are listening. We have people listeners from all across age groups, right? And so we have millennials and people coming in where they are in that stage where they're like, well, I do this and I do this, and they've got multiple careers, and you're just like, wow, how are you doing that? And you've got kind of our generation where we're still getting that the residual of our parents, like you have one job, you go to school and you do this. And I was kind of in that balance where I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. But at least I went to college, right? And we were in that era too. Got to go to college. And I don't tell my kids that anymore. I'm like, listen, if you don't know what you want to do, you're not going. Number one, because I'm not paying for it. If you go to college, you're paying for it. Why? Put some skin in the game, because then you'll really make sure you work it. Because I just don't believe, I had girlfriends who literally took 7 different like career paths in college. Their parents paid for it. I mean, they went to multiple colleges and had what?
Yeah.
They had no degree after. I'm like, that isn't, and I get it, because they just didn't know and they were doing it to please the parents. Now the parents are paying the bills, and it's like, what were we doing? So it's really important to know that it's okay not to know, and just let it happen. Like, go have adventures like you did. So Chicago, interesting. It's really sad right now. Chicago, it's really sad, but I also love Chicago. When things are calm, I'll go back, when things kind of calm down with the world. But Chicago's a cool city. And so what did you do when you were in Chicago? Like, what kind of jobs did you have?
I had only one job, and I worked for a family as their mother's helper, which is another name for a nanny.
A nanny, yeah.
So this family was very wealthy. They were wonderful. We would take their private jet to the Bahamas and to Aspen and all these places,
Right.
It was a really, really neat experience. And like I said, I love the city and I wanted to live there. But after moving there, within 2 months, I realized I am not a big city girl, like at all. So yeah, it didn't last long.
No, I get it. I get it. I had moved to Hawaii once. My husband at the time was living on the island, and I was like, holy cow, I had a brand new baby. I was 19, 20 years old. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. It was so expensive. I just wanted my family. You know what I mean? Like, I can travel. Like, I am a traveler, but I always come home. Like, home, I got to be home. There's just something about coming from up and seeing the bridges and seeing the water and seeing the hill and just going, I'm home. Like, you just know, it's like, it's safe. It's such a beautiful place here. And I know you care so much about the Northland. So let's talk about some of that. You are a writer. You've written, I think you write a few things. So I'm going to let you share. I did read your bio and I do know what you write, but I want you to share. Tell it. Okay, so you come back home. What happens then? So you get into writing 5 years ago, but what happened to get you kind of back home and what you were doing?
So, getting back home, I came back home in 2008, 2009, worked for a year, and then I actually lived on the East Coast for a couple of years. And then I came back home again. And I got a job at Lake Superior College, which I love the school. Great people up there, great programs, trades for young people and older people. And I decided I wanted to try some freelance writing. So I reached out to some local papers and the Women Today magazine and some other places and started doing that. But it really wasn't, I've been writing for some of them for almost 10 years now, but it really wasn't until a few years ago that I thought, through the encouragement of my husband mainly, saying like, you're a pretty good writer, you should send this off to this place. So I did, and they're like, oh, we love this, we want to publish it. I'm like, oh, okay. And then recently I wrote a post about motorcycling. My husband is really into motorcycling, and to me it was just kind of a reflection, and he posted it on their website for the business, their motorcycle business, and people loved it. And then through that, people reposted it, and now it's being published in the BMW Motorcycle Owners of America magazine. So that's going to November, which is pretty exciting for me because it's a larger publication. There's always something about seeing your name in print. Everybody has their thing. Like, I don't know, but for me, it's like being published is just really cool. It's really cool to see your name in print.
It's insanely cool. And I co-authored recently.
I was gonna say,
and writing. I'm in the middle of writing. I shouldn't say writing. I have a ghostwriter, and I'm just going to say that to everybody because I don't care. I will write some of it, but for me, I have to take the pressure off me. So I have it as a backup. Like I have all the stuff I'm doing as a backup because I will write. It's just that I don't want to put the stress on me in case I don't reach my deadlines or be like, I have so much to say, but I didn't have time. And so it is very cool to see that. You have done some other things in the Northland, like you are part of the Great Lakes. Explain that. You do a lot of
Great Lakes Aquarium.
Great Lakes Aquarium. You also really like to promote our city in general. Like you're very, very good about that. Everything you write, you're always like the big lake. I always say the big lake too, but it's just a really special place that people need to know more about because it's not just a city where they have a lift bridge. Like it's way more than that. And we have a lot of really cool things here. And so you're really a good advocate for our city. And I think that's important too. But you also started something pretty fun and you have a project and I want you to share about the project. But before we do that, there's something missing.
Sure.
How the heck did you meet your husband? Because he's not in the story yet.
Oh, wait.
How the heck did we get there?
Okay, yeah, let's back up a little bit. So I was actually on a 2-year plan to move back to Colorado.
Okay.
And then I had bought my house, I was settled, and I thought I'm going to live here for a couple more years, and then I'm going to sell my house, buy a new car, and just road trip back to Colorado. And in that time, I was also studying for my master's, so all of that was falling into place. And then one day I go to an event at a pub downtown that was an event about bicycling. And I sit down next to this older, distinguished gentleman and didn't think much about it because my husband is quite older than I am. And he won a gift certificate that night to Sammy's Pizza, which is the local pizza joint. I looked at that. Oh, it's so good. But I have to give props to Shamrock Pizza in Superior as well. I see you, Shamrock.
Also good. And Skyline Pizza. Dave's Pizza, also good.
Yeah.
So we got with Sammy, we have like the pop, like the one. Like
we could do a podcast just on pizza.
We seriously could talk pizzas in the Northland for an entire hour. And we're like, I actually enjoyed that because we could go into all the good stuff. But today. But anyways, I love that. So we won a gift certificate.
And so, yeah, he got this gift certificate and I kind of was hoping he would just give it to me, but he was like, do you want to have pizza with me? And I was like, sure. And he goes, when? And I said, right now, because I didn't want to give him my phone number.
I love that.
Like, so we had pizza. We had such a great conversation. And 5 months later, we're married.
Oh, that is awesome.
Quick, because we're older, neither one of us had ever been married, and it was just like a done deal. Like we just, they say, we knew.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and even I think there's friendships too where you just kind of know, and it doesn't always go there right away, but you just know. You're like, this is like my person. Like this is a person, and I love him. Like I get it. I totally get it. So you got married. Now we're back over here.
Now all this I stay.
Yeah.
And which, I mean, I've always loved the area. And so I'm very happy that it worked out this way. I'm looking out at Lake Superior right now, and it's just fantastic. I mean, people who don't live here come and visit because of the lake, obviously. And then there's so much more. I'm a board member at the Great Lakes Aquarium, and there's so much offered there. I think people just think it's fish, but, they have baby alligators and an albino turtle, and you can, kind of pet the moon jellies in their tank. There's just a lot of really cool things there. And the whole canal park experience is pretty awesome, especially with Love Creamery being known there too. But yeah, so to me, what Duluth is kind of all about are the arts and the outdoors.
Yes.
So we have the lake and boating, jet skiing, paddleboarding, canoeing, kayaking, all that stuff. Hiking, all of the trails. Oh my gosh, the Superior Hiking Trail is fantastic. Mountain biking, which I tried, but not for me. we have the ski hills, and then up north, Lutsen. So there's just, there's so much up here. Move to Duluth.
I know. And you are an outdoors person. You do things. I always laugh because I'm like, I'm an outdoors, not outdoors person. Like I'm not crazy. I'm not the granola of Duluth, but I'll do stuff. Like, okay, I'll do a hike every now and then. I do love, so right now it's fall. So obviously it is insane. Yes. Everywhere you look, there are colors. People travel the world to see this. Like just this part of the world. they come to see our fall colors. And I think that's so incredible. So I guess what would be your favorite place if you could take everywhere in Duluth and even surrounding? I'd say go up the shore a little bit because there's a lot to do. What is your favorite place? I'm curious.
Sure. The first one that comes to mind is a hike in Duluth called Brewer's Loop, which I haven't done it this year, but I did it a few times last year, and I've been meaning to get out, but things haven't happened. So, yeah, it's a really beautiful hike. You can do 2 miles, 4 miles. There's also mountain biking there. Of course, walking Park Point, the beach here at Park Point is fantastic. So outdoors wise, Brighton Beach is a really special place. I know it's not open, but it will be. And up north, I love going along the highway, especially in the back of a motorcycle, and just taking in the scenery. Oh my gosh, there's so many places. And then just like going to North Shore Theater, not outdoorsy, but doing the whole theater thing, or the DSSO, the symphony in town. Oh, I'm a huge Bulldog hockey fan.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Sports. We do have amazing sports teams here too. So I think that's fun. My favorite place, if I could pick, like if I went up the shore, Split Rock, again, my favorite place for you.
Okay.
And the hike, it's fun to do some of the trails. Like if somebody's coming to visit, you can do a lot of cool things around it. I love Little Angie's. If I was going to go eat,
okay, yep,
Angie's there. But I do love Love Creamery. Hello, me and my kids. I get the affogato. It's just that scoop of ice cream with espresso. Oh my gosh, heaven! I discovered that this year. So I was like, that is the coolest thing ever. Obviously walking in Canal it's just easy. Like there's people everywhere. It's always fun. I do love our arts and our sports though. We do have fun football teams, hockey teams. Obviously can't get enough hockey here, but it's been an all around cool place. And this last year I've lived downtown, which is out of my comfort zone. So are you in Park Point area?
yes.
Okay. So you're in an area where it comes off the bridge and it's like a strip of land. So I'm explaining they're like, what is that?
Sure.
And there's water on each side. So she's in the coolest spot, but the weather can get crazy there too. So you can it's called bridged. Let's explain what bridged is. Since we're in one of the largest ports in the world, yes, we're in a huge, massive port. So the boat I get to watch from my place all day long, in and out, and we get to hear the horns, and I love the horns. So talk about what bridged is for people who don't know.
So when you get bridged, that means that you're driving or bicycling or whatever, going off the point or onto the point, and the aerial lift bridge raises like this in the air, and it goes up when there are leakers coming through, these 1,000-foot ships that are bringing in cargo or coming to get cargo and then bringing it back out. And the bridge could be up for 10 minutes, and the longest I think I've waited is 45 minutes. And that was when a ship had to go out and then another ship was coming in. And people who don't live here are kind of like, well, why does it take so long? And one of the reasons is or my understanding at least, is that they have to raise the bridge a certain amount of time before the ship is coming in, because if something goes wrong with the bridge and stalls, the ship doesn't have enough time to turn, because they're huge. I mean, they're 1,000-footers. And so
we're ocean liners. For people who don't understand, we have something called the Soo Locks. So the Soo Locks, and some people have heard of them, but maybe not understand. So when the boats come in, they're actually coming in from the ocean. They go through the Great Lakes through the locks. So the locks will raise up or down for the water levels. This is so mind-blowing that we do this, but we've been doing it for years. And so Lake Superior, Duluth is one of the biggest ports in the world. We do supply the world with supplies. So things are going out from here and they're coming in from here. And so now they actually upped it. I was reading the other day, we're going to get like 800 more ships in. That's not like, we're getting insane amounts. So that bridge is going to be up and down a lot. And
no, I was thinking that.
It is already up and down a ton because I watched it. But it's beautiful. I mean, it's a cool experience, but they really added a lot, which is good for our economy here because we needed to get it out. But it's definitely one of those things where if you live where you're going to be dealing with it a little bit more. But we love it. We do love it.
I think it's usually fine unless you like really have to get somewhere, which, you plan accordingly. You learn once you live down here, you got to add an extra 20 minutes in or whatever. But The one time was Thanksgiving 2 years ago, and I was like, they're going to start Thanksgiving dinner without us. That's my favorite holiday. I want my turkey. And then I got there and they were behind schedule, so it was fine.
Oh, good. Yeah, we make them work. It'll work out. Okay, so as we wrap up, I want to talk about your next project because I was looking at it and I think it's so amazing. And I love, Molly, you have one of the coolest spirits, not only because, I got to know you a little bit a couple months ago, but also just your passion for everything you do is in everything you do. So it's so beautiful. And so let's talk about your latest project for everybody who's in the Northland or wants to get to know what the heck you're up to. What's happening with Rock Buddies?
Yes, Rock Buddies. I love Rock Buddies. And I should have had like a Rock Buddy here to show you. What was I thinking?
Go get a picture and we'll put it.
Okay. So this is a way to just spread joy and let other people know that you're thinking about them. It's a box that comes with the card that says you rock. And then you can write your own individual message. So if I was sending one to Shylo, I'd be like, hey, Shylo, thanks for the great show the other day. You rock, girlfriend. And then each rock has googly eyes. Some have beards, some have hair, some are bald, and they come with a a birth certificate that talks about who they are, their name, their birth date, and their interests. And each one is individual, different, unique. I started it because years ago, when I was going through a hard time, somebody sent me a card in the mail. It wasn't a card this way. It was just like a flat card, and it had a motivational quote or scripture on it. And it wasn't so much the quote or scripture that really stuck with me, but that somebody took time out of their day to address, this envelope, send it to me specifically. And they didn't sign it. I to this day have no idea who sent me that card. It came from St. Paul. And it just really hit me and it made me feel really special. And I wanted to give something to the world that other people could make their friends and family feel special as well. So by sending a Rock Buddy, you can either sign your name or not sign your name, leave it anonymous to make it kind of more fun. Make that person wonder like who was thinking about me. But yeah, it's a way to spread joy.
And I think that's important. Right now, we just, something that is really interesting is, through all the stuff that's been going on the last 2 years, if you really dig deep into it, joy was removed from our lives, in every way. We couldn't go to movie theaters. We couldn't be together. We couldn't, there was things slowly taken away. And pretty soon, everything you heard about in every movie was politically charged. And now I'm not on any side. I'm not saying on any side. I'm saying it was so politically charged. You couldn't go to sports without seeing it. Everything. It's like all the joy we had was ripped away. And all we got in front of us was politics, hate. And it's like, I understand there are very serious things going on, but we do need our time. And we got ripped of human even like touch. And so when you can give somebody something, like I know how important it is to me when somebody writes a card. Like if somebody says, even if it's 2 little lines and they're like, hey, thank you, love you. Right. It's like mind blowing to me. I'm like, thank you. You took the time, even a text where somebody took the time to say, I am proud of you, or I just want you to know I'm thinking of you. That right now, I think everybody needs a Rock Buddy. And I'm not joking. Everybody needs a little Rock Buddy in the mail because we all need a little bit of joy. And slowly we're getting it back. Slowly we're getting it back. And I remember I was in the movie theater the other day with the kids. We went to Dune. And I was at, the Lake Superior one, so the larger one. We had the great lounge chairs and we took our blankets. And in one of the previews, the guy who jokes around, the head of Marcus, who's always in all the advertisements, is like, it's almost as if a year ago something happened, or he made a kind of a comment. And I'm like, I looked at my kids and I go, think about it. We couldn't be in a movie theater a year ago. Right? Remember that? Like, we couldn't go. And it's so different. And even a year ago, we were heading into a second quarantine. If you remember Duluth we all went into second quarantine for like 8 weeks, 6 weeks. It was really tough. It was during the holidays. I was so depressed. I mean, I was by myself for some of the holidays, stuck in my apartment that was tiny because I had to move into a quick apartment. And I just remember sitting there crying some nights because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so lonely and so like And even when I was watching movies, I watched old movies. Like I would rent all old movies. I wouldn't go on Netflix and get the new stuff. I'm like, it's all depressing. I had to watch all my old favorites just to stay kind of okay. Because it gets scary. So I'm really proud of you for doing that. How can people find you? Is there a website we can send? And we'll also send this. Don't worry if you can't. We're going to have everything written out for our viewers. But is there a website they can go to or maybe connect with you on social if they want to learn more?
Rockbuddies.com.
Okay.
And you can follow at Rock Buddies. And then my website is mollymilroy.com. And handle I am Molly Milroy because I am.
You are, and I love it. And we're so grateful you came on the show today. You have so much to give to everyone. Like I said, you're my gypsy soul, and I'm just glad I got to like show the world who Molly Milroy is, because you're not done, my friend. I mean, when you get to meet Molly, like this is such a toned down version. Like when you get to meet Molly, you're like, we're doing this. Like we danced, we had so much fun, we rocked out together. And you just bring so much energy, but your spirit is just intoxicating in such a good way. And that's what people need. And I'm so grateful for people like you. And I'm grateful you came on the show. Thank you so much.
Me too. Thank you for having me. And I do feel like it's been a toned down version. I'm like, what?
No, it's all good. That's all good. But people will see you more. They're going to follow you. We're going to get into that, buddies. And yeah, follow Molly. Seriously, you will see so much fun stuff and great content. There's always a good post from you.